Okay, everyone, this is a story about a targeted individual in the Bible. This is from the book of Job, and there was a man named Job. I'm going to start with Job 1. There was a man named Job who lived in the land of Uz. He was blameless, a man of complete integrity. He feared God and stayed away from evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 teams of oxen, and 500 female donkeys, and he employed many servants. He was, in fact, the richest person in that entire area. Every year when Job's sons had birthdays, they invited their brothers and sisters to join them for a celebration. On these occasions, they would get together to eat and drink. When these celebrations ended, and sometimes they lasted several days, Job would purify his children. He would get up early in the morning and offer burnt offering for each of them. For Job said to himself, "Perhaps my children have sinned and have cursed God in their hearts." This was Job's regular practice. Job's first test. One day the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan the accuser came with them. "Where have you come?" the Lord asked Satan. And Satan answered the Lord, "I have been going back and forth across the earth watching everything that's going on." Then the Lord asked Satan, "Have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and will have nothing to do with evil." Satan replied to the Lord, "Yes, Job fears God, but not without good reason. You have always protected him and his home and his property from harm. You have made him prosperous in everything he does. Look how rich he is. But take away everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face." Job 12. This is 1:12. "All right, you may test him," the Lord said to Satan. "Do whatever you want with everything he possesses, but don't harm him physically." So Satan left the Lord's presence. One day when Job's sons and daughters were dining at the oldest brother's house, a messenger arrived at Job's home with this news: "Your oxen were plowing with the donkeys feeding beside them when the Sabeans raided us. They stole all the animals and killed all the farm hands. I am the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger arrived with his news: "The fire of God has fallen from heaven and burned up your sheep and all the shepherds. I am the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, a third messenger arrived with this news: "3 bands of Chaldean raiders have stolen your camels and killed your servants. I am the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger arrived with this news: "Your sons and daughters were feasting in their oldest brother's home. Suddenly a powerful wind swept in from the desert and hit the house on all sides. The house collapsed and all your children are dead. I am the only one who escaped to tell you." Job stood up and tore his robe in grief. Then he shaved his head and fell to the ground before God. He said, "I came naked from my mother's womb, and I will be stripped of everything when I die. The Lord gave me everything I had, and the Lord has taken it away. Praise the name of the Lord." Job 1:22. In all of this, Job did not sin by blaming God. Job 2. Job's second test. One day the angels came again to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan the accuser came with them. "Where have you come from?" the Lord asked Satan. And Satan answered the Lord, "I have been going back and forth across the earth watching everything that's going on." Then the Lord asked Satan, "Have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and will have nothing to do with evil. And he has maintained his integrity even though you persuaded me to harm him without cause." Satan replied to the Lord, "Skin for skin, he blesses you only because you bless him. A man will give up everything he has to save his life, but take away his health, and he will surely curse you to your face." "All right, do with him as you please," the Lord said to Satan, "but spare his life." So Satan left the Lord's presence, and he struck Job with a terrible case of boils from head to foot. Then Job scraped his skin with a piece of broken pottery as he sat among the ashes. His wife said to him, "Are you still trying to maintain your integrity? Curse God and die." But Job replied, "You talk like a godless woman. Should we accept only good things from the hand of God and never anything bad?" So in all this, Job said nothing wrong. Job's 3 friends share his anguish. 3 of Job's friends were Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite. Excuse me. When they heard of the tragedy he had suffered, they got together and traveled from their homes to comfort and console him. When they saw Job from a distance, they scarcely recognized him. Wailing loudly, they tore their robes and threw dust into the air over their heads to demonstrate their grief. Then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days and nights, and no one said a word, for they saw that his suffering was too great for words. Okay, so not only does God allow Satan to make him a target, but we see the proof here in Job 7:20. "If I have sinned, what have I done to you, O watcher of all humanity? Why make me your target? Am I a burden to you?" Okay, and then it goes on also in Job 16:12. He mentions it again. "Then he set me up as his target." And in Job 36:32, he fills his hands with lightning bolts and hurls each at its target. So you can see that there's definite proof of how Job was completely made into a target. I mean, he had the perfect life, it seemed like, and then suddenly he became the target and just had to really work hard to get to the point where he could understand what God was trying to do through him. Okay, now if we move along to Job 34:20, we see, "In a moment they die, in the middle of the night they pass away, they are removed without human hand. At midnight the people are shaken and pass away, and the mighty are taken away by no human hand." Let's just take a deeper look at that. What it says after is, "For God watches how people live. He sees everything they do. No darkness is thick enough to hide the wicked from his eyes. We don't set the time when we will come before God in judgment." And then when we move on, we find out Job responds to the Lord. This is 42:5. He says, "I had only heard about you before, but now I have seen you with my own eyes. I take back everything I said, and I sit in dust and ashes to show my repentance." And then the conclusion is, the Lord blesses Job. Number 7, after the Lord had finished speaking to Job, he said to Eliphaz the Temanite, "I am angry with you and your friends, for you have not spoken accurately about me, as my servant Job has. So take 7 bulls and 7 rams, and go to my servant Job, and offer a burnt offering for yourselves. My servant Job will pray for you, and I will accept his prayer on your behalf. I will not treat you as you deserve, for you have not spoken accurately about me, as my servant Job has." And in verse 9, "So Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite, did as the Lord commanded them, and the Lord accepted Job's prayer. When Job prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes. In fact, the Lord gave him twice as much as before. Then all his brothers, sisters, and former friends came and feasted with him in his home, and they consoled him and comforted him because of all the trials the Lord had brought against him, and each of them brought him a gift of money and a gold ring. So the Lord blessed Job in the second half of his life even more than in the beginning, for now he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 teams of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. He also gave Job 7 more sons and 3 more daughters. He named his first daughter Jemimah. Jemimah. I think that's how you say it. The second, Keziah, and the third, Kirin Hapach. In all the land, no women were as lovely as the daughters of Job, and their father put them into his will along with their brothers. Job lived 140 years after that, living to see 4 generations of his children and grandchildren. Then he died an old man who had lived a long, full life. So, I hope this brings hope to anybody who is feeling like a target out there, to know that God has a much bigger plan for you. Okay? God bless and stay well. Thank you for listening.